For decades, fat has been painted as the primary villain in the story of our heart health. We have been told to fear it, to cut it out, and to seek out low-fat alternatives wherever possible. This has led to a widespread belief that all oils, being pure fat, must be direct contributors to heart disease and, ultimately, heart attacks. The logic seems simple enough on the surface. Fat clogs arteries and oils are fat, therefore oils must be bad for you. But is this really the full picture? The truth, as is often the case in nutrition, is far more nuanced and complex than this simple equation suggests. It is time we moved beyond the headlines and looked at what the science actually tells us about the relationship between the oils we consume and the health of our most vital organ. The question of whether oils cause heart attacks is not a simple yes or no. The answer depends heavily on the type of oil, the quantity in which it is consumed, and the overall context of your diet and lifestyle. Scientific evidence does not support a blanket condemnation of all cooking oils. In fact, many types of oils are not only safe, but are essential for good health, providing vital fatty acids that our bodies cannot produce on their own. The real danger often lies not in the oil itself, but in how it is used and what other foods it accompanies. A diet rich in heavily processed foods, for instance, is detrimental to heart health, but blaming the seed oil within those products is to miss the larger, more significant problem of sugar, salt, and refined carbohydrates. This essay aims to untangle the web of misinformation that surrounds dietary fats and oils. We will explore the persistent myths that circulate on social media and in popular health discourse, separating sensational claims from scientific reality. We will investigate the so-called toxic seed oils, the health halo surrounding coconut oil, and the myths about cooking with olive oil. By understanding the fundamental differences between various types of fats and identifying the genuine dietary risk factors for heart disease, we can empower ourselves to make more informed, healthier choices. It is not about eliminating fat, but about understanding it and choosing wisely. The journey to a healthier heart does not require a complete ban on oils. Instead, it calls for a more sophisticated understanding of nutrition. We need to learn how to distinguish between fats that help our bodies and those that can cause harm when consumed in excess. We will also look at how oils are treated in commercial settings, such as restaurants, where practices like reusing frying oil can introduce genuinely harmful compounds into our food. By the end of our discussion, you will have a clearer perspective, enabling you to navigate the supermarket aisles and your own kitchen with confidence, knowing you are making the best choices for your long-term cardiovascular well-being. At the very core of the confusion surrounding oils is a fundamental misunderstanding about fat itself. It is crucial to recognize that fat is not a single entity. It is a broad category of nutrients with vastly different effects on the human body. Our bodies absolutely need fat to function correctly. Fats are a major source of energy. They help us absorb certain vitamins like A, D, E, and K, and they are the building blocks of cell membranes and various hormones. To declare a war on all fats is to deprive your body of these essential functions. The key is to differentiate between the types of fats we are consuming and to prioritize those that support our health while limiting those that do not. The good fats are primarily unsaturated fats, which are further divided into monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats. Monounsaturated fats, found abundantly in olive oil, avocados, and certain nuts, are celebrated for their ability to improve cholesterol profiles. They help to lower LDL, often called bad cholesterol, while potentially raising HDL, or good cholesterol. Polyunsaturated fats, which include the well-known omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, are also essential. Found in fatty fish, walnuts, flax seeds, and various vegetable oils, these fats play critical roles in brain function and reducing inflammation. The Mediterranean diet, consistently linked to a lower risk of heart disease, is famously rich in these beneficial unsaturated fats. On the other side of the spectrum are the bad fats, which we should aim to limit in our diets. The primary culprit here is saturated fat. Found in foods like butter, lard, full-fat cheese, fatty cuts of meat, and tropical oils such as coconut and palm oil, saturated fats have been shown to raise LDL cholesterol levels in the blood. High levels of LDL cholesterol are a significant risk factor for atherosclerosis, the process where plaque builds up in the arteries, narrowing them and increasing the risk of a heart attack or stroke. The American Heart Association advises that saturated fats should make up less than 7% of your total daily calories, highlighting the importance of moderation. Finally, there is a category of fats that should be avoided as much as possible: artificial trans fats. These are created through an industrial process called hydrogenation, which turns liquid oils into solid fats. They were once common in margarines, baked goods, and fried foods because they improved texture and shelf life. However, trans fats are unequivocally bad for heart health, as they not only raise bad LDL cholesterol, but also lower good HDL cholesterol. Thankfully, due to growing awareness of their dangers, many countries have banned or severely restricted their use in food production. Understanding this simple classification, prioritizing unsaturated fats, limiting saturated fats, and avoiding trans fats, is the first and most important step towards building a heart-healthy diet. In recent years, a powerful narrative has emerged online, demonizing a group of common cooking oils collectively and rather menacingly, referred to as the Hateful Eight. This group typically includes oils extracted from seeds like sunflower, canola, corn, soybean, and grapeseed. The central claim of this myth is that these oils are inherently toxic, because they are high in omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acids, specifically linoleic acid. Proponents of this theory argue that modern diets contain an unnaturally high ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fats, and that this imbalance drives chronic inflammation, which is a known contributor to a host of diseases, including heart disease. This claim has gained significant traction, causing many health-conscious individuals to purge their pantries of these everyday oils. However, when we turn from social media influencers to the body of scientific research, a very different picture emerges. The idea that seed oils are toxic is not supported by robust clinical evidence. Firstly, omega-6 fatty acids are not just some industrial byproduct. They are essential fatty acids. This means our bodies cannot produce them, and we must obtain them from our diet for crucial physiological functions. A comprehensive 2019 pooled analysis of 30 different studies, a powerful form of scientific investigation, found no evidence that consuming omega-6 fats increased the risk of heart disease. In fact, some of the data even suggested that higher intake might be linked to a longer life. The American Heart Association continues to recommend that 5 to 10% of our daily calories come from omega-6 fats. The concern about the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio does contain a kernel of truth, but it is often misinterpreted. It is true that an optimal balance between these two types of fatty acids is important for regulating inflammation in the body. However, the solution is not necessarily to eliminate omega-6 fats, which are essential, but rather to ensure we are consuming an adequate amount of omega-3 fats. Most Western diets are indeed lacking in omega-3s, which are found in fatty fish, walnuts, and flax seeds. Therefore, a more constructive approach is to focus on increasing your intake of omega-3-rich foods rather than fearing the omega-6s found in common vegetable oils. It is also important to consider the context in which these oils are often consumed. Many of the processed and packaged foods that are rightly criticized for being unhealthy, such as crisps, biscuits, and ready meals, happen to contain seed oils. The health problems associated with these foods, however, are far more likely to stem from their high content of refined carbohydrates, added sugars, and excessive sodium, rather than the oil itself. When used for home cooking within a balanced diet rich in whole foods, fresh seed oils do not pose the threat that online myths suggest. Blaming the oil is like blaming the butler when the real culprit is a room full of unhealthy ingredients. Coconut oil has enjoyed a meteoric rise in popularity, propelled by claims that it is a miraculous superfood. It has been marketed as a healthy alternative to butter, a booster for metabolism, and even a protective agent for the brain. This perception has led many people to use it liberally in their cooking, add it to their morning coffee, and even consume it by the spoonful, believing they are making a heart-healthy choice. The allure is understandable. It comes from a natural plant source and has a pleasant, tropical aroma. But does the scientific evidence support its status as a health elixir, particularly when it comes to cardiovascular health? Unfortunately, the reality is starkly different from the marketing hype. The undeniable fact about coconut oil is its incredibly high concentration of saturated fat. In fact, it contains more saturated fat per serving than butter. Around 90% of its fat content is saturated, compared to about 63% for butter. As we have already established, diets high in saturated fat are consistently linked to an increase in LDL cholesterol, the bad cholesterol that contributes to the buildup of plaque in our arteries. A single tablespoon of coconut oil can contain nearly all of the daily recommended limit for saturated fat for some individuals. From a purely biochemical standpoint, its effect on blood lipids is more comparable to animal fats like lard and butter than to liquid vegetable oils. Proponents of coconut oil often argue that its saturated fat is different because it is rich in medium-chain triglycerides, which they claim are metabolized differently by the body and are therefore less harmful. While it is true that some medium-chain triglycerides can be a quick source of energy, the primary fatty acid in coconut oil is lauric acid. This fatty acid behaves more like a long-chain fatty acid in the body, and research has clearly shown that it raises LDL cholesterol levels. While it may also raise HDL cholesterol slightly, the significant increase in harmful LDL cholesterol cannot be ignored. Major health organizations, including the American Heart Association, have explicitly stated that the evidence does not support the claims of cardiovascular benefits and advise against using coconut oil to lower heart disease risk. So, where does this leave us with coconut oil? It is not a poison, but it is certainly not the heart-healthy superfood it has been made out to be. It should be treated in the same way as other sources of saturated fat, like butter. This means using it sparingly and infrequently, perhaps for the occasional dish where its unique flavor is desired, but not as your primary everyday cooking fat. For daily use, your heart will be much better served by choosing an unsaturated oil, such as olive oil. The coconut oil story is a powerful reminder of how effective marketing can create a health halo around a product that is not supported by the weight of scientific evidence. Extra virgin olive oil, or EVU, is really the cornerstone of the heart-healthy Mediterranean diet, and it's celebrated for its rich content of monounsaturated fats and those powerful antioxidants. For years, it's been the go-to choice for salad dressings, drizzling over finished dishes, and, well, dipping bread. However, there's this persistent myth that's caused a lot of confusion and concern among home cooks, the claim that you should not cook with EVU. This belief is based on the idea that it has a low smoke point, which is basically the temperature at which an oil starts to break down and produce visible smoke. The fear is that heating it past this point creates harmful toxic compounds. So, as a result, many people end up saving their expensive EVU just for cold applications and turn to other oils for sautéing and roasting. But honestly, this myth really misunderstands the science of cooking oils. The smoke point of an oil is not the only or even the most important indicator of its stability when heated. What actually matters more is its resistance to oxidation. That's the chemical reaction that degrades the oil and can produce those harmful compounds. Extra virgin olive oil, especially the high-quality stuff, is incredibly rich in protective compounds called polyphenols and tocopherols. These are powerful antioxidants that not only provide health benefits when we eat them, but also protect the oil itself from breaking down under heat. This high antioxidant content makes EVU surprisingly stable at typical home cooking temperatures. And scientific studies have directly tested this. Research comparing various cooking oils has found that EVU is one of the most stable oils when heated, even outperforming many seed oils that actually have a higher smoke point. Its smoke point is typically around 190 to 207 degrees Celsius, or 375 to 405 degrees Fahrenheit, which is definitely well within the range for most common cooking methods like sautéing, stir-frying, and baking. Deep frying, which needs extremely high temperatures, is generally not recommended for health reasons anyway, no matter what oil you use. But for everyday cooking, EVU is perfectly safe and effective. In fact, cooking vegetables in EVU can even boost their nutritional value by making their fat-soluble nutrients and antioxidants more available for our bodies to absorb. So, the advice to avoid cooking with extra virgin olive oil is really, for the most part, unfounded. You can and honestly should feel confident using this heart-healthy oil for most of your cooking needs. Not only does it hold up well to heat, but using it also infuses your food with its beneficial compounds. When you're choosing an oil for cooking, it's far more important to consider its overall nutritional profile and oxidative stability than to focus just on its smoke point. By embracing EVO in your kitchen for both hot and cold preparations, you're really aligning your cooking habits with one of the most well-researched dietary patterns for promoting long-term heart health and longevity. While the debate rages on about which fresh oils are best for home cooking, a far more clear and present danger lurks in the kitchens of many restaurants and fast food establishments: the practice of reusing cooking oil. In a commercial setting, particularly one that involves deep frying, vast quantities of oil are used. To save costs, this oil is often used repeatedly over many hours or even days. Each time the oil is heated to high temperatures, it undergoes a process of thermal oxidation and degradation. This chemical breakdown is accelerated by the presence of moisture and food particles from previous batches of frying. The result is an oil that is fundamentally different and far more harmful than the fresh oil it started as. When oil is repeatedly heated, its chemical structure changes for the worse. Beneficial unsaturated fats can be transformed into harmful trans fats. Furthermore, a host of new and potentially toxic compounds are formed, including free radicals and aldehydes. These compounds are known to promote oxidative stress and inflammation within the body, which are root causes of many chronic diseases. Oxidative stress can damage cells, proteins, and DNA, and is strongly implicated in the development of atherosclerosis, the hardening and narrowing of the arteries that leads to heart attacks. Consuming foods cooked in these degraded oils introduces these harmful substances directly into your system. The difference between a home-cooked meal and a commercially fried one can therefore be profound, even if they appear similar. At home, you typically use fresh oil for a single cooking session, and then discard it. In a restaurant's deep fryer, the oil's quality deteriorates with every use. The food cooked in this repeatedly used oil absorbs these harmful byproducts. This is one of the key reasons why a diet high in fried foods, especially from fast food outlets, is so strongly linked to an increased risk of heart disease. The problem is not just the high calorie and fat content of the food itself, but also the poor quality of the medium in which it was cooked. This highlights a crucial distinction in the conversation about oils and health. The risks associated with fresh, high-quality oils used in a home kitchen are vastly different from the risks associated with industrially processed, repeatedly heated oils. When evaluating your diet, it is important to consider not just what you are eating, but how it has been prepared. Limiting your intake of commercially fried foods is one of the most effective steps you can take to protect your heart. This is not about fearing all fried food, but about being mindful of the hidden dangers that can come with oils that have been pushed far beyond their limits in a commercial environment. For many years, dietary fat was public enemy number one in the fight against heart disease. This single-minded focus led to the proliferation of low-fat and fat-free products, many of which were loaded with other ingredients to make them palatable. We now understand that this narrow view was misguided. While the type of fat we eat certainly matters, fixating on oil alone means we often overlook the other, more significant dietary villains that are major contributors to poor cardiovascular health. One of the most damaging of these is, without a doubt, added sugar. When we consume excess sugar, our bodies respond in ways that directly harm the heart and blood vessels. High sugar intake is a primary driver of several key risk factors for heart disease. It can lead to high blood pressure, increase inflammation throughout the body, and contribute to weight gain and obesity. Furthermore, the liver converts excess sugar into triglycerides, a type of fat that circulates in the blood. High triglyceride levels, combined with high LDL, sometimes called bad cholesterol, and low HDL, or good cholesterol, form a dangerous trio that dramatically increases the risk of a heart attack. The American Heart Association recommends strict limits on added sugar, no more than about 38 grams or 9 teaspoons for men and 25 grams or 6 teaspoons for women per day. Yet it is hiding in countless processed foods, from sauces and cereals to seemingly healthy yogurts and juices. Another major culprit is excessive sodium, most of which comes from processed and restaurant foods rather than the salt shaker on our table. A diet high in sodium causes the body to retain water, which increases the volume of blood in the bloodstream. This, in turn, increases blood pressure, forcing the heart to work harder to pump blood around the body. Over time, this sustained high blood pressure can damage the artery walls, making them more susceptible to the buildup of plaque, and can lead to an enlarged, weakened heart. It is also a myth that sea salt or Himalayan pink salt are healthier alternatives. By weight, they contain the same amount of sodium as regular table salt. Finally, we must consider the role of refined carbohydrates. These are grains that have been stripped of their bran and germ, and thus their fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Foods like white bread, white rice, pastries, and many breakfast cereals fall into this category. Because they lack fiber, they are digested very quickly, leading to rapid spikes in blood sugar and insulin. This metabolic response, when it occurs frequently, is linked to weight gain, insulin resistance, and an increased risk of type 2 diabetes and heart disease. Ultimately, a truly heart-healthy diet is not just about choosing the right oil. It is about embracing a pattern of eating that is rich in whole foods, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and lean proteins, while minimizing added sugars, excess salt, and refined grains. Navigating the world of cooking oils can feel overwhelming, but armed with the right knowledge, making heart-healthy choices for your kitchen can be straightforward and simple. The most important principle is to prioritize unsaturated fats for your everyday cooking needs. Make extra virgin olive oil your workhorse. Its excellent stability, rich flavor, and proven health benefits make it an ideal choice for a wide range of applications, from salad dressings and dips to sautéing and roasting vegetables. When shopping for extra virgin olive oil, look for bottles that indicate a recent harvest date, as freshness is key to preserving its beneficial antioxidant content. Store it in a cool, dark place and aim to use an opened bottle within a few months. For those times when you need a neutral-flavored oil or are cooking at slightly higher temperatures, other unsaturated vegetable oils are also good choices. Canola oil, often called rapeseed oil in the UK, is a versatile option that is low in saturated fat and high in monounsaturated fat. It also contains a decent amount of plant-based omega-3 fatty acids. Other seed oils like sunflower or grapeseed oil, despite the online myths, are perfectly fine for home use as part of a balanced diet. The key is to use them within a cooking pattern that is dominated by whole foods, ensuring you are not relying on them as part of a diet high in processed goods. It is equally important to know which fats to limit. Saturated fats should be used mindfully and in moderation. This category includes butter, lard, ghee, and tropical oils like coconut and palm oil. These fats are not forbidden, but they should not be your daily go-to oils for cooking. Think of them as flavor enhancers to be used sparingly, perhaps for baking a special treat or adding a specific taste to a particular dish. Instead of slathering butter on your toast, for example, consider a drizzle of olive oil or a spread of avocado. Small, consistent changes like this can significantly shift the balance of fats in your diet towards a more heart-healthy profile over time. Finally, become a savvy label reader. When you are buying processed or packaged foods, pay less attention to the low-fat claims on the front and more attention to the ingredients list and nutrition panel on the back. Look for the amount of saturated fat and check for hidden added sugars and high sodium levels, which are often more detrimental to your heart health than the fat content itself. By stocking your pantry with good quality unsaturated oils, using saturated fats sparingly, and being mindful of the overall quality of your diet, you can create a kitchen environment that actively supports and protects the health of your heart for years to come. In conclusion, the widespread fear that all oils are ticking time bombs for our hearts is a dangerous oversimplification. The scientific reality is that our bodies need fat, and the type of fat we choose to consume makes all the difference. The narrative that pins the blame for heart attacks squarely on cooking oils distracts from a more complex and holistic truth about nutrition. We have seen that the claims against seed oils are largely unsupported by robust evidence, and that the superfood status of coconut oil is a marketing triumph rather than a scientific one. The real path to cardiovascular wellness lies not in eliminating a single ingredient, but in fostering a balanced and informed relationship with our food as a whole. The true dietary culprits that consistently raise the risk of heart disease are not the oils we use for home cooking, but rather the excessive consumption of added sugars, high levels of sodium, and ultra-processed foods laden with refined carbohydrates. These are the elements that drive inflammation, raise blood pressure, and create the metabolic conditions ripe for arterial plaque to form. A diet can be high in healthy fats, like the Mediterranean diet, and still be one of the most protective eating patterns against heart disease. This tells us that the focus should be on the overall quality and pattern of our diet, not on the demonization of one nutrient. Our practical takeaway should be one of empowerment, not fear. We can confidently embrace unsaturated fats, making extra virgin olive oil a staple in our kitchens for its proven benefits. We can use other vegetable oils without guilt as part of a varied diet. We should approach saturated fats like those in butter and coconut oil with mindfulness and moderation, treating them as occasional ingredients rather than everyday essentials. and we must remain vigilant against the hidden dangers in commercially fried and highly processed foods, where oil quality is poor and unhealthy additives abound. Ultimately, protecting your heart is about making a series of conscious, positive choices every day. It is about choosing an apple over a biscuit, cooking at home instead of ordering a takeaway, reading food labels, and understanding the basics of good nutrition. It is about recognizing that there are no single magic bullets or monstrous villains in our diet. Health is built on a foundation of balance, variety, and a commitment to eating real, whole foods. By moving past the myths and embracing the reality of how different foods affect our bodies, we can nourish our hearts and pave the way for a longer, healthier life.